Hi, my name's Elaine and I'm Joe's mum. It's been a while now. I can't think how many years it is now since we found out. It's got to be 5 or 6, maybe. Obviously, at the very beginning, it was just horrific, just unbelievable, really. I believed what I was told, but the disbelief that it could actually happen to my son, was all consuming, really. I felt immense distress, probably a little bit like any major life event, that anyone goes through, like the death of somebody close. It's probably the first thing you think about every morning when you wake up. The same as any sort of life-changing event, really. And that's how it was for me. And it was very hard to start with, because I suppose I felt like I should have protected him. I should have known. I was his mum and we were close. I should have known that these things were going on, but that's not the case, obviously. And also I knew the person the perpetrator. I knew him quite well. He actually worked at the hospital that I work in. I'd say good morning to him every morning, as I do with most people at work. I'm quite friendly, so I always chat to different people. Chatted to him in the corridor in the mornings, stood on the football pitch with him when Joe was playing football. Just never even considered that anything could be going on, And he was the boyfriend of a very close family of ours. So we had quite a lot to do with them. We spent a lot of time with them. And when Joe's dad and I got divorced, they were very, very supportive. And we stayed there. They actually said to us, come and live at our house. And they gave us like a sanctuary, really. So, yeah, and they've I don't blame them in any way at all. They had no idea what was going on, and they struggled through it as well. And interestingly enough, some friends, some family really couldn't understand why I was still friendly with them. To them, it was like, that's it, you should totally block them out of your life. It happened in their house on their watch. That's it. But I didn't feel that way at all. They need supporting as much as I did and Joe did, and we've all come together with it, and it's all worked out really well. And I think that's the key thing. I think the key thing is to keep talking and just be open about things and talk about things, because I'm quite good at bottling things up, bottling my feelings up and being strong. And I think being a single mum for a long time, that was what I had to do. I had to protect my children, and I was always a strong one. I couldn't see to be like flaking out, because I had 2 children to sort of look after. And yeah, there were lots of things around that. Their dad left me in quite a lot of debt, and so I was the strong one, so I couldn't fall. But sometimes when I look back, I think maybe I should have spoken to more people about it, professionals. I think I should have maybe talked to a counsellor. I didn't. I thought I could do it all myself. I did have days, quite dark days, where I would just burst into tears in the car, and then I'd be fine when I got to work. Never had a day off work. Even through the court case, never had a day off work, just carried on as normal. Some days I'd come home in the car and I'd hear a song on the radio that reminded me of Joe when he was the age that the abuse was happening. And I'd just have a total meltdown, thinking, that was the time that it happened, and just lots of little triggers, really, that now I see are quite natural. As I said, it's like somebody close to you that dies, the songs that you link with them. I don't really get stressed, but I think I do inwardly probably stress, and it comes out in other ways. I should have probably talked to a counsellor, but I think there's definitely a place for counselling. And talking to friends. My friends have been amazing. I think you really do find out who your friends are, and you really realise that the traits in your friends that you have, that is why you've chosen those friends, why those friends have naturally gravitated towards each other, because some friends will talk to me about it now and ask me, how are you feeling about that now? Even though it was a long time ago, whereas others have never mentioned it. I've never asked. Yeah, and as I say, can't understand why I'm still friends with the couple whose house it happened in, and aren't as empathetic as I would have liked them to be. But everybody's different. Everybody's unique, and we all handle things differently. So I think you do come across lots of different people. But my friends have been amazing, really, amazing support, and some family members. But it's like anything. I think it's like, if somebody dies that's close to you, after so many years, people forget. After the funeral, when somebody dies, people forget, and they just carry on as normal, but you're still grieving. And I've got friends who've been through things, and I still ask them, how are you doing about this? I think that's really important. And that's where something like the Survivors Trust obviously comes in, because you've got that constant support if you need it. It's always there. So I think that's a really, really good thing, to be able to draw off those resources and ask for help, because you don't know how you're going to feel 5 or 6 or 7 years down the line. You might suddenly have a meltdown. You might hear a song on the radio that reminds you of your little child at that particular time and have to switch it off, you know. But I actually have stopped doing that now. I can listen to steps and not think of that particular time at the school disco when Joe was 8. And gosh, that was the time it was happening and I should have known. And all the time I was just thinking, oh, he's having a great time, not knowing what was going on for him. And a lot of it for me is Joe, the strength that Joe has shown through the whole thing. He didn't tell us for 10 years and suffered in silence for 10 years. Obviously, he had a bit of a breakdown and then it all came out and we found out. But since then, I think that has been his turning point. I think since then, he's so strong. And I think his strength has made me, and we're both strong anyway, but I think we've bounced off each other. You know, we've had long walks in the mountains, talking about things, talking about everything, his dad, his brother, his situation with the abuse, everything he went through. And we're very, very open with each other. Certain things he wouldn't tell me and I wouldn't want to know. We both like being outside, in nature. And I think that's a big thing as well. Things that have helped me: being outside, walking, mindfulness, being with family and friends and being with Joe, just keeping things open. This is what's happened from this. You know, Joe's done so much work for different charities and he's done Tough Mudders. He's worked as a mentor for a young lad whose father, I think, had left when he was young and his mum's terminally ill. And he's really given so much of himself. And I feel that, well, he's just an amazing, amazing man. So, yeah. He'd just finished interrailing and he'd gone off with his friend. And I was thinking, brilliant, he's having a great time. But he'd actually phoned my ex-partner, who is like a dad to Joe, very, very supportive stepdad, and said, I need to come home. I'm really, really depressed. I've got something to tell you. So he paid for his flights to come home. I think he was at university at the time in Reading. So he came back to Hereford and Nick called me round for a meal. I thought everything was fine. And then the bombshell dropped. And I was just shock, I suppose. Shock is the disbelief, shock. And even talking about it now, even though it's a while ago and I'm much better now, I can still feel the pain inside, you know, because you're, as a parent, you're supposed to protect your children and you feel like you failed, really. And the guilt that you feel that you should have known, you should have seen things. And I would go over in my mind as to, oh, was that something I should have noticed? And I'd be raking things up from the past thinking, oh, I remember this incident at so-and-so's house, where Joe had a bit of a bad dream and he wanted to get into bed with me. I said, you'll be okay, go back to bed. And I think, no, I shouldn't have done that. I should have let him come into bed with me because obviously he was feeling vulnerable and I should have known. And I didn't, you know, why didn't I know? But I think when I talk to other people about other events that they've had, they all say the same. It's just a normal human natural reaction that we do these things and we beat ourselves up about it. And we shouldn't, because we're all human and, you know, we all have these feelings rushing around and sometimes we're allowed to fall, you know, it's just a natural thing, really. And it's a way of, I feel that I've had quite a lot of knockbacks over the years, but I've always got back up from them and it's made me stronger. And a bit like Joe, I think he's found strength in this and he's done so much good since, you know. It gives you a really strong character. Yeah, but to start with, it was awful, just immense pain, I suppose. And I wanted to go and kill him, to be honest. I wanted to go and find him and kill him, as did Joe's stepdad. We never would have, obviously, but you feel so angry. And I think because I knew him, I felt really disappointed that he would befriend us and, you know, but that's how they do it, I suppose, you know. I'd have waves of anxiety. I can remember walking to work one day and just suddenly having a flashback of Joe and him telling me and knowing that he'd really struggled with his mental health quite severely because of it. and also with his dad leaving, it'd been hard for him, you know, and just having to phone him straight away. As soon as I'm walking down the hill, I have to phone Joe. I have to know that he's okay, because if this is how I'm feeling, he must be feeling like this. Or he must be feeling 10 times worse. And I'd phone and be like, hi, Mum. Yeah, I'm fine. I think, oh, okay, that's great. Um, and, you know, I just for reassurance for me, really, that he was okay. And since then, I never said to him at the time, oh, I had to phone because I was stressing about how you're feeling. But afterwards, I would say, he'd say, you phone me, you know, sometimes you phone me and I realise why you're phoning me. Because intuitively, he knows that I'm phoning to make sure he's okay and he's not struggling, which is quite interesting because he's older now, and you know, we have these adult conversations and we talk about all sorts really. But all I wanted to do was jump in the car and put my arms around him and protect him and bring him home, you know, and didn't want it to leave my sight. But I had to think, no, he's at university, he's got his life ahead of him. This is just something that's happened to him that he can recover from, and you know, and he can lead a fulfilling life, as can I, you know. And the challenging, I suppose, the guilt as a mum, really, feeling that I should have known. I was always a very hands-on mum, and I think because their dad was quite a difficult character and he was very strict, so it was me that sort of we'd have fun days out and they'd be able to climb trees, whereas their dad wouldn't let them climb trees. And so we were very close. You know, I always took on more of the role of the parent. And then of course he left, so that was even more so. So I felt like, I don't know, I suppose I felt I was like some sort of supreme being that should know exactly what's going on with my children. But actually that's unrealistic. You know, you can't, but I think that was the most challenging thing. But now I realise that that was impossible. Conversation with Joe, reassurance from him, and not just don't feel guilty, mum, because it's not your fault. More in-depth conversations about different things. And so yeah, he is like the main healer for me, really, Joe, because of the way he's handled it all, really, and the maturity that he's shown with everything. And he's just an inspiration, really. Also, the other thing I did do, I've got a friend who's a hypnotherapist, and we were on holiday with them, and I sort of told them, after knowing them for about 4 or 5 years, I told them the story and what Joe had been through. And he said to me, right, come on, I'm going to do some hypnotherapy with you. Come upstairs and we're going to have a quiet time. And I thought, oh, this isn't going to work, you know. But it was amazing, absolutely amazing. He got me to release so much stuff. And I remember crying and coming down, and I, you know, my friends could see I'd been crying, but it really did release so much stuff. And since then, I've actually now trained to be a clinical hypnotherapist. I haven't set my business up yet, but it's nearly on its way. Joe's doing my website for me; it's nearly finished. So, and I think that was another thing, just helped me release things: the hypnotherapy, mindfulness, and also I think spending time on my own, getting to know myself and giving to other people. I've worked in the NHS for what, 40 years. So I'm used to giving to other people, really. I'm always chatting to patients and talking to people and getting to know people, and not only for what they've come in for, but for the problems that they're facing. You know, I just like to talk to people, really. So I think that helps. I feel like I'm giving as well. I think if you're giving something back and helping others, like with the Survivors Trust, if I can help other parents, if I can help one parent, that's something, isn't it? You know, it's one parent come to terms with what's happened. Yeah, I think you do wish that it could have been you every time, with anything, with anybody, really, you know, particularly your children, because, and particularly as a mum, I think, because you've carried them and you've looked after them, you've protected them, so you always wish anything, you know, if they stub their toe, you think, I wish that was me that stubbed my toe, you know, anything really. You feel that much protection towards your children that you take any of their pain on. I don't know, I think time is a healer, definitely. Time does help. And I think it's a process you have to go through. It's like any shock, you know, you maybe you can't eat, and you can't focus on things, and everybody reacts differently, don't they? And I think the process just has to happen, really, to go through each stage of it. I think it takes time. I think you've got to allow yourself to go through the process, and any feelings that come out, just let them come out, because I have bottled things up in the past, but I have learned to let things come out. And I think talking to people, talking to friends that you know will empathise. If you've got something on the mind, just say it, just and get it out, and keeping that relationship with the child strong and open. Ask them about it. Obviously, you don't want to know all the details, but how are they feeling? Is there anything you can do to help them? Because your role slightly changes, really, I suppose. You've had these children, and you think everything's great, and then all of a sudden you're faced with something, and your life changes, really. It's like if your child has a serious illness, you're faced with different obstacles then and different hoops to jump through. But I think it does make you stronger, and just keep that bond with your child, keep everything open, and just spend time with them. And I think it's just a process that you have to go through, and it just takes time. Lots of fresh air, lots of time to yourself to reflect on things, and just be kind to yourself. There's no way you could have controlled any of this, so you've just got to be kind to yourself and realise that. I think they have to go through it themselves, like anything really. They're your child, but they're their own person. And I think they cope with things. They might have lots of personality traits like you and their other parent, but they are an individual and they cope with things in their own way. They've got lots of influences from children at school and lots of different things that have shaped the way they are. And it's up to them to process the information themselves. And you've just got to be there, and they need to know that you're there. Whatever they need, you will support them and you will love them unconditionally. And if you can help in any way, then you'll be there. But they have to, like anything, it has to be their journey. You can't force things upon them and say, oh, you should do this, you should do that. You can suggest things. Have you tried this? Or would you like to try this? And if you want to try it, and I'll come with you, or if you would rather go on your own. But I think if you try and enforce too much of what you think, it might take them longer to recover, and they may still not have recovered into their adulthood, and they might still have questions in their head and that they haven't actually been able to process themselves because they've had too much. And of course, they feel that they don't want to let you down as a parent, so they will just go along with what you're saying. So I think you've got to be careful not to do that, really. It's so important to not keep going on at them, and because you lose that connection with them otherwise. They go further and further away because they feel alienated, don't they? And you've got to make sure you keep that strong connection with them, I think. Millions of miles away, really. I mean, obviously I still get days where I don't really, I don't know, I don't really think about that event anymore. It's in the past, and I've got to move on with my future, and there's no point moping about, and you've got to get on with your life and have a happy life. I think this last couple of years with COVID, I think we've all had a bit of a shock, haven't we? And I think we've all realised that actually you've just got to make the most of every single day, not dwell on all the negative stuff of the past, and be kindness, and try and be happy, really. I think time does heal. It has for me. And also the fact that I've got a very good relationship with Joe, and I've got a good relationship with my husband, been very supportive, my family, my friends. I think I'm a million miles away from there, really. I don't dwell on it at all anymore. So it does get easier. It does get a lot easier. I think I just realised that because these particular people, group of people, are very similar. They're family on one side. And I think I've realised that they're like that with most things. So that's just the way they are. That's their opinion. That's the way they think. And that's just, everybody's different. Everybody's unique. And it doesn't worry me really anymore. I just accept that different people think different things, and some can accept things, others can't. And I just feel quite lucky that I can, you know, like I am very empathetic and compassionate, and I do put myself in other people's shoes, and to put myself in their shoes, the family that where it happened, who were good friends of ours, who've been so kind to us so many times, and what they were going through, because it happened in their home and they never suspected it, and they made this boy welcome. He was like family to them. So the pain they were going through was similar to the pain that I was going through. So I feel that I went down the right road. You know, I didn't even consider not being friends with them anymore. So I just feel that everybody's different. I mean, obviously, the fact that Joe approached me and asked me if I would mind getting involved with the Survivors Trust and making a video. And I said, yeah, definitely, if it can help other parents, because I wish I'd had something like this all those years ago, because I think it would have been really helpful to be able to find some resources online that, oh, other people have been through this. It's, you know, because you don't think about it until it happens to you. You have no experience of child abuse. It's something that doesn't happen in your sort of social circle sort of thing. You always think of it as being things that happen to other people. It's like anything like that, isn't it, really? So it comes as a shock. So if you've got something you can look at and support, you know, and that's the one thing with this modern age, we're all here supporting each other, and there's lots of sites you can go on for mental health things, and it's in the forefront now, isn't it, mental health? So, which is another reason I've done this hypnotherapy course, because I just want to be able to help people get over things that are painful for them. And so, yeah, I jumped at it really. Obviously, you feel a bit nervous doing it because you're in the spotlight and you're not used to it. But no, if I can help anybody else, and it's for a brilliant cause. So, and it helps Joe. You know, if anything that will help Joe, if Joe thinks, oh, mum's getting involved, and that means that she's interested in me and what I've been through, not just that, oh yeah, that's finished now, that's over. This can continue, you know, and it's just the continuous support for him as well. So